Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Julia and this is your weekly dose of mindful tarot coaching. 3 questions, 6 cards, different interpretations. I invite you to listen carefully, pick up what resonates and create your own meaning. Given that this is going to be a general collective reading, it has its limits and there is no room and space for every interpretation, and that's why it's super important that you follow your intuition, follow your gut, and you create your own meaning and own story. Well, having said this, let's get started. Before I dive into the next week, I would like to very quickly recap the current one, because it is always a good lesson to repeat those lessons, especially approaching the end of the week, to make sure that we don't miss anything. And it is an especially good idea this week because these 2 weeks are kind of in sync with each other and the lessons from the current week are also going to be echoed by the next one. This is not a coincidence, it happens sometimes. The tarot is a very funny and cheeky tool and it is always ready to repeat the lessons that we are not ready to understand for the first time, and we can be only grateful for that. Well, so you may remember that the last week we had the topics of karma, growing up, responsibility and the like, and again we have some kind of similar topics this week as well. If I have to quickly sum up the next week in some words, I would say escapism, self-reflection and breaking vicious cycles. Well, now we can finally get started. Well, the main significator of the next week is the reversed judgment, which is showing up recently from time to time, which is not a coincidence. This card is about ending, closing a circle, rebirth and renewal. And a very important key aspect of this renewal and moving on is to leave the past behind. And we can leave the past behind if we can make peace with it. And the very key moment in this to take a look at your story, your life so far, to put a narrative, a story behind that makes sense to you, to understand the lessons from the past, to understand how did they contribute to your personality, to your situation, what life events have played in what role in your life. And by putting this story together, being able to release it, to leave it behind, right? This is a purging process and therefore it is not always pleasant. It can bring up a lot of very stressful and unpleasant feelings and therefore it can be that we try to avoid it. I think that this is going to be the case given that this card has come up reversed. So chances are that the next week we will try to avoid this calling, to ignore it, right? And instead of listening to it and finally doing this shitty work of self-reflection, we will try to do something else and move on in our schedule. This aspect and this message is kind of confirmed by the reversed Knight of Wands that complements this card from the Minor Arcana. The Knight of Wands is all about fire, right? So it is about expansion, inspiration, impulse, and taking action. As you can see, indeed, this guy is full of enthusiasm. He is running to the battle with a lot of enthusiasm and being ready to take action. So normally it's a great card. However, given that it has come up reversed and completes this reverse judgment, I would rather assume that in this case, this is about escapism and trying to avoid this invitation and ignoring it. Well, this is of course your choice, and you can go for it. However, if you do so, you may miss very important lessons, and you may end up in running the very same cycles instead of moving on, which is the promise of this card, in case you are ready to do the work, right? So this is the main topic. Now let's take a look at what risks and opportunities we have for the next week. And I love the two cards here because they are pretty much in sync what we have seen so far. Because what we have here is a reversed Hanged Man. The Hanged Man, as you may know, is also all about self-reflection, taking a break, pushing the pause button, and instead of taking action, creating space and time for being silent, for meditating a bit and thinking through things first before we move on. This card teaches us a very, very difficult spiritual lesson, and this is about not acting. I think that's the word, right? So it is about sacrificing action and maybe also ideas in order to create space for something different to emerge. You may know, and you may have tried it. If no, I would suggest and recommend you do so, that in case you take a look at the world from an upside down position, then everything looks quite different. And it means that in case you are ready to change perspectives, then you may come to totally new solutions and answers. And this is the magic of this card, right? Therefore, it has a great potential, and it would be a great idea to follow its advice. Well, unfortunately, given that it has come up reversed, chances are that we are ignoring it, yeah, as we have already seen here with the first two cards. So chances are that we don't want to do this self-reflection word. I know I'm repeating myself a lot. And we don't want to hit the pause button. And instead, we just move on. Another interesting interpretation of this card is playing the victim or playing the martyr. It is also a risk. So make sure you are not doing so, but maybe take a look at the previous card in the sequence, as we like doing in the case of the reversed cards, and getting back to the Judgment, which is about, as you may remember for last week, is about karma and creating your own destiny. So we have this card here, and if this wouldn't be enough, we have here another card which is also about taking a pause. And this is the Four of Swords. This card has shown up in a very same position also last week. And this is not a coincidence. So this card is also about truce, about taking a break before running back to the battle, right? As we have seen here. And this card also draws our attention to the importance of meditation, reflection, and the like. And if I take this reversed card as an invitation for getting back to the previous card in the sequence, I will end up with the Three of Swords. And the Three of Swords is again about processing the past, the traumas, the negative emotions and the feelings. So again, here you go. Here's another confirmation of the importance of processing what happened so far, of processing every difficult emotion and thoughts, because this is going to be key in moving on. All right, now last but not least, let's take a look at the advice cards. And the advice is delivered this time by the devil. And I am smiling because I love this guy. I know that he may come across as very intimidating. However, he is a great guy. Remember that his name is Lucifer, and this name means the one who brings the light. And this is indeed what he does. He brings us the light by first taking us to the different side of the polarity and showing us the darkness, the dark side or shadow side, right? The devil is all about or vicious cycles or addictions and all the negative patterns that are not serving us, but that we are trapped in some way. So again, this is a great help in reminding us that we always have a choice, because the situation that you are in is, unfortunately, my dear, is the consequence of your choice. I know that this is a very inconvenient and unpleasant truth, and we don't like hearing this, but that's the magic of the devil, that he reminds us that no matter what situation are we in, it was our decision, or putting it into other words, we always have the freedom to walk away the next time. Given that the card has come up reversed, we have here a very strong invitation to take a look at those vicious cycles, at those patterns, and everything that keeps us back from breaking free and being a better version of themselves. We can, the devil can mean a lot of things, like addictions like drug abuse and sex and gambling and overeating, toxic relationships and the like. So ask yourself what is yours, and then remember that you have the freedom to walk away. I can also interpret this card as an invitation, as always, for getting back to the previous card. And if we do so, we will end up with the Temperance, which is, unlike the devil, about being calm, balanced, moderate, and patient, and also knowing who you are, what is your long-term purpose, and where are you heading to, right? So we have here this invitation of getting back to this kind of energy and trying to break this vicious cycle. And now, last but not least, we have here another complementary card from the Minor Arcana, and that is the Three of Coins, which is about teamwork, fruitful collaboration, cooperation, project work. We see here different people with different backgrounds and skills coming together and creating something together, some great stuff. And this is what this card is indeed about: reaching out to other people, teaming up with them, having a cooperation with them at an eye level. And this can mean a lot of things. For example, in this context, it can be an invitation for reaching out to other people, asking for help, maybe going to group therapy or whatever. So remember that you don't have to go it alone. You don't have to be the lonely fighter, but you have other people around and they can help you. And there is another interpretation from me. There is this saying that always comes to my mind when I look at this card, and that is that Rome wasn't built in a day, and a cathedral also wasn't built in a day. This is a big project that may be intimidating at the first look, but remember, this is a process, and therefore it takes time. Your task, your job at this point is to go for it, to make the first steps into a new direction, and to know that this is going to be a process and start it, right? So don't feel intimidated by this, but remember, it is going to be a process and you don't have to go alone. All right, then. Now, last but not least, let me quickly wrap this up and show you the whole constellation. All right. So, next week we may cope with escapism. We may try to ignore the call of this angel. And we may try to avoid this very important self-reflection work that would help us to break the vicious cycles. So make sure you don't ignore this call and don't get into escapism and into action, but first create time and space for new solutions to emerge and for processing your difficult emotions and your past, because this is going to be the key aspect in moving on, closing down the past and creating new cycles for yourself. We have here also the devil, and it draws our attention the importance of understanding our toxic patterns. So ask yourself, what patterns are repeating in my life? What vicious cycles am I trapped in? What lessons do I ignore? And what is my long-term purpose? And if you ask me, reflecting on those questions may really help you to understand yourself and to move on. Right. This is, of course, my interpretation. I'm super curious about yours. You can write about this in the comment section. And yeah, last but not least, thanks a lot for being here. Thanks for showing up. I wish you a wonderful week ahead and see you next week again. Take care of yourself. Ciao.